Welcome to the meditation, the speaking, and the awakening podcast. And you'll understand later when you hear the discussion. I'm going to get the listener to kind of explain a bit more about herself, but she's known as, and I hope I do it justice, Wa, the Queen. Please welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rog. Gao Motsemme is my name. And I just want to start this by greetings. I normally do it in my native language. And for me, it just activates that ancestral presence. And Dumelang Lokai. And Dumelang in direct translation, it means agree. Lokai is where are you? So my question when you are here listening, I just want to know, what is your intention and what is it that you are agreeing to every time, whether you hear the word meditation, whether you hear speaking, whether you hear awakening, what is it that is coming through? And with you locating where you are, I just invite you to be present with us. And just for this moment that we are together, choose to be in your body and don't tell your body what to feel or what to hear, but allow your body to communicate with you. Listen and feel those sensations, those twitching, whatever that is. And I come from Botswana in Southern Africa. I've been here in Germany for 10 plus years. And I'm grateful to be here on this journey. And I'm just curious what will come through in this moment. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, I mean, I've kind of seen and read like your story, but let's kind of go from your origins in Africa and how things kind of developed, how your childhood and exactly what happened and how you led you to get into Germany as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I come from a very traditional African family. And I say, when I came through, I just came with this knowing that I'm the queen. And I was very unapologetic about who I am. And only to find that, according to the culture, the family, the societal beliefs, there are certain things that someone is not supposed to be. You have to follow what you are given. And that is basically my childhood, where I was called different names, crazy. And my mom kept on saying, you are not like my other children. So as much as I thought at the time that I'm being my unique self and I don't care what other people say, but I realized with time that somehow there was an underlying feeling of not being accepted. There is a wound that I created life from. And for me to know that is through my life experiences. When I look at my relationships where it's more wanting acceptance and not fully being accepted, because if you don't accept yourself, you're going to attract people who also accept you at the level that you accept yourself. So I was in toxic relationships, not only romantic, but also at work, where there was a relationship that was ongoing with my boss. And I would say it was more the same relationship with my mom that I was playing and being picked up on and all that. And I went through that trying to, at the end, I just learned to suppress who I am and be the people pleaser, not say what I want, doubting myself. And it's not a great place to create life, but at some point, because even when you're talking about who we being, when you are denied who you are, eventually you focus on what everybody is saying or who you have to be. So I was an accountant and I didn't like accounting. But somehow when the company I was working for was downsizing, I just felt my soul dancing. I was excited, even though I didn't know what I was excited about. It was scary, but it was also exciting. So I took that opportunity to opt for a separation package. And that was the beginning of, I would say, freedom. But at times when you want freedom, we want freedom, but we don't know at what expense it would come with or what is it that would cost us. Because at times for us to release who we are not, it's going to take, we need to develop some muscles. So through that, losing my job, my corporate job, which was also my identity. So as much as I was excited, that's what I identified myself with. That's what I esteemed myself with when I got into the society. So losing that, it kind of like created an opportunity or a crack where my ex came through and even went to court because I was not working, went to court and started fighting for the children, which I lost. And yeah, I was separated with my children for 5 years. And that was a very painful situation where I felt powerless. I didn't know who I was because losing my job, at least I had my children, where it was kind of like my source of strength. And we say this, my children are my strength, and I'll do everything for my children. So when that was taken away from me, I started questioning who I was. And through that came this work that I'm doing, because the question that came through, which came through just me writing, was who are you without your parents, without your mother, without your father, without your career, your job, without your religion, like everything that we identify with. And at the end, who are you without your children? And that was the moment where I just started crying, and I was like, but who the heck am I? And I was led to this work that I'm doing. I was led to my purpose. So through that pain, this purpose came through. I found myself.
It's something that I'm working with at the moment as well. We've set up a thing called Brain Gym Fitness because a lot of people, they work in the gym, but not about themselves and looking in. And it's like the question you just said, who am I? What's this about? Instead of conformity in life, because like the way we've discussed this, like we go through school, and how are you a good student? You conform, and you're told sit down and be quiet. And then it's the same in the job, just like what you went through, and everything is like that. And some people, they never snap out of that, and it's liberating when you do. And like I love the way that you're helping more people to do that. So with, I mean, I understand, like, with not seeing your, so was it that for 5 years you didn't even see him, or was it that you were only getting limited access that with your children?
I was, I mean, I didn't see them in the sense of through that, I ended up relocating where I met my partner. Actually, I would say besides losing my job, somehow someone leaked the news that, oh, she's got a boyfriend in Germany and she's planning to relocate. So I believe the whole agenda to go to court was basically for me not to relocate with my children. I would say for me not to relocate because identifying with my children, because as mothers we esteem ourselves with our children. So my ex kind of knew, like, when he stops the children from relocating, somehow it's going to affect my relationship. I'm going to end up staying back home, so but I decided to be courageous and say, you know what, for me to be able to give my children me, as in like they're loving me, not them getting my emotional instability, I get to bite the bullet and just go. So I was back and forth with lawyers appealing and all that. But it was more like visiting like for 2 weeks and then coming back. Even for that visiting, it was still, I would say, a painful process where the children had to be crying, Daddy, let us go to mommy, I have to beg him. So it was that kind of thing, but they were not allowed to visit me at all. And I would just go there when I was visiting. And still, like I said, it was like, oh, you're going to be with them for only 2 days. I'm giving you 2 days. And then, yeah, it was a very traumatic, draining process.
And because I mean, that's not kind of unique now. I mean, there's a load of, I mean, I'm in, like my child is 10, and like we got divorced when the child was just 1. So I know what it's like. And but I've seen a load of kind of friends as well. And it's bad enough when you're in the same kind of city. But a lot of people, they move to the opposite side of a country or across the pond. And not only is it traumatic for you, but the children as well, because like the child doesn't want that. But the other thing is, it's a kind of catch-22, because I have tried to make a relationship work when you know deep down it's not. And I think that's worse for a child, because they're surrounded in kind of like, whether you call it toxic relationship, negativity, where there's just, it's not going to get better, even though if you try, and you just know there's times you kind of know. And it's a hard one, but it's like I think a lot of people now might judge you for that, or they judge me for what, but it's like, you know yourself what's right. And I mean, like, I know my child, like it's just the time that I spend with him. I mean, I have equal custody, but it's like, how do you tell the people now that are going through that? Because now it's a lot easier kind of looking back over the years and going, than when you're in the moment, because it is so painful in the moment. And I just like to know what you would tell people that are currently going through this.
That's a very good question. Actually, I'm getting chills because the truth of it is people will judge you. So there is an element of shame. And you try to explain to people, this is the situation. But no matter how much you explain yourself, people believe what they want to believe. They don't care, whatever, because they perceive things through their beliefs. But what is important is what is expansive for you. Because I still remember, for me to finally draw that conclusion that I'm better off out of the country, there was a moment where I went to my children's school. There was an activity that was going on. So I went there, and my children were there, and my ex-boyfriend was there with his girlfriend. And here's the toxic situation, or even more of the dysfunction. His girlfriend at that time was the sister-in-law, someone that I thought was part of the family, but apparently was a girlfriend. So sister-in-law slash girlfriend. So I was there with the children, and there were a lot of things that were being said, even about me, because my children are mixed. So it was kind of like, oh, we are the right family. Look at your mother is dark. And at that event, the whole time, the children were with them, and I was walking by myself. It was a walking activity, creating some sponsorship and all that. So I was by myself, and I felt so out of place, so lost. I felt childless, even though I was with my children. And that was a moment when I realized that, because at that moment, when I come back to after the event is done and I go back with my children, I'm like, what was that? Why did you guys all along, you didn't even bother to consider that I'm there as a mother, you are not with me, and all that. And it's kind of like, oh, mommy, sorry. And then all that they're getting this side, that getting that side, it creates, even me as a mother, I start getting angry with them. They don't understand, they don't even know who to listen to. So at that moment, I realized that my mental state right now, they're fucking up with my mind and everything. And I'm not in a position to be the best mother for these children. Because the truth of it is, at the end of the day, when all is done with, the children are going to need somebody who is stable and emotionally available to hold space for them. At times we can be present as parents, but we are being toxic because of the pain that we are going through. So take care of yourself first. Nurture yourself, be in a state where you can provide a better environment. Because if you are pulling, the other one is pulling, pushing, push and pull. What you're doing is like you are separating those children or that child's aura in half, because it's also a conflict for that child. So what would you want for your child? Would you want your child to learn maybe the other toxic part, if at all you feel that the other side is toxic, and at least find stability by you? And I remember the question that came through along my journey when I moved, but at the end of the day, my heart was not here. No matter how beautiful, whether I went to Paris and all these places, every time I saw something great, I was like, it would be nice if my children were here. And I remember my higher self asking me, why can't you find joy where you are at? Why can't you find joy in that moment? And she said, the problem is you think these children belong to you, but they don't. They belong to God. They are also on that soul path. They're on that journey. Are you willing to find your own purpose? Are you willing to find your own joy? Because you may be where you are, but what if you are meant to be the light in those children, wherever that they are at? And at times we can be in the same physical place with the children, but instead of being the light, we're being the dark. And it doesn't serve our children. So if you are going through this, what I can say is, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you find healing within you. Like I was told, you need to do the work. And one of those work is forgiveness. And I'm not saying, okay, fine, sit down and say, okay, fine, I'm forgiven. Because at times we rush to say, oh yeah, I forgot, I've forgiven that person. Is it true? Because I remember when I was told you need to forgive, I was like, you fucking crazy. Whoever you say, like, you are insane. Forgive. You know really what is happening? You know, and at that moment I was vulnerable, I was raging, and I said, no, I'm not gonna do that. The next question was, but do you want to be with your children? And I said, yeah, but you need to do the work. And I said, I don't know how to forgive. That was my honest truth at that moment. I don't know how. And I was just guided, and I love that one of the things that you are very big on is meditation. So I was just guided, sit and be open, if at all you are willing, and we'll guide you. And I said, how would I know if I have forgiven? Because I don't even know what the heck that means with the pain that I'm going through. And I was told, when you have completely healed, forgiven, everyone involved, the heart will open and you'll have your children back. And I don't even know when that happened because I was not attached to that. But I remember the moment when I sat in my altar and I said, God, guide this man because he was going through a dark time. I said, guide him into the light. Show him who he is. Because no matter what, my children need that fire. And at that moment, I was like, who the heck is this woman? Because I don't recognize myself. I was willing to even take financial resources and send them because they were going through some turmoils. And I said, this is for you and the children. And what I can say is through that process, through the healing, which at times you may need to ask for help from somebody, which is something that I do even personally. But I didn't go back to the lawyers despite going through 8 lawyers. And I'm with my children. That's the power of doing the inner work.
You mentioned, the way your mother, how she kind of thought you were different. And like, the thing is, we don't know the journey of anyone. You might think you're in a relationship with something. You might think you know something. Very few actually will really take off all the layers and let you deep inside. And it's like true kind of like meditation and stuff like that. Because what happens a lot of the time when there's breakups and stuff like that, people tell stories because they want people to go on their side, and they start bashing you, and they start bashing it to loads of people. And then you're trying to defend yourself, or you're going to a place and you're knowing you're hated for somebody that doesn't even know you, because based on a story that they've heard. And like, even when you see the child defending you, knowing that a lie has been told. And it's such a horrible thing that a parent is telling a lie because the children are absorbing everything. But if we kind of go an extra layer then on forgiveness, like how I, not with her, it was more of a financial thing that happened to me, but it was a kind of trick that I just kind of, it worked, is I brought him back to the baby. So I brought anybody that I had hatred for, that had robbed me or done bad things. And I kind of like had unconditional love, because when you see the baby, it's just pure joy. Like, a baby is born with pure love, and it's external influences that create what is there. So, like, parent is working hard, they're working 2, 3 jobs, child goes off with the wrong people, or there's an alcoholic parent or an abusive or something, there's always something. And if you can bring him back to the child, you can forgive him. And it's like, I know it's hard at times because your blood can boil for things they do, but you never get, like, what I've learned is that you just kind of keep your mouth closed at times, even though you feel the pain. But the more that you, like what you said, you gave financial and you wanted to help, the more that you just ooze love with whoever it is, it's actually, you end up kind of not having the pain that you would have previously had.
Absolutely. I just love all of that. And it's that and more because like I was told, this others are the children who are on their soul path, you know. And for us to have a child with somebody, definitely at a soul level, there is an agreement that was made. That's why they chose both parents. And as a child, even us, when we are born into a family, there is a lineage, there is some experiences, some lessons, there is something, even whether we call it karma, that needs to balance, you know. So we are born into these templates that somehow at a soul level we knew that it's going to be challenging, but I'm going to remember who the fuck I am. We were committed and said we're going to remember. So when we look at the oneness, which is who we truly are, when we move from that separation consciousness to that unity consciousness, all that is happening outside of us, even that particular person that we may hate at that moment because they're doing whatever that they're doing, but there is an aspect of us that fell in love with that person. The question is, what attracted you to that person? I laughed when I was asked this. I was just asked, but what is it that attracted you to this person? And I was like, oh, but what? But when I go to the core, I realized that the same wound where I felt not accepted, I was looking for acceptance. And at times, looking for that acceptance, I'm going to look for something where we resonate with each other. Like, it's quite interesting because when I look at my ex, and like one thing, I saw potential in him, but I knew that it was not unleashed at that moment. And because I was young, drinking, smoking, and my family was very traditional, and his family it was the other something else. Like they were not that much judgmental. His mother was smoking and all that. So I felt like, okay, with this family, I can smoke, I can do whatever that I want. So I don't have to hide and all that. So it's kind of like something so stupid like that. But for me, that was like who I was at that moment, and I wanted to belong. So it was that. And we got that. So at times when we hate and let me we lock somebody somewhere in darkness or we send them to hell, whether it's by doing something or we just affirm that God will see them or whoever the higher power that we perceive as. What we are doing is we are shutting an aspect of us that fell in love with that person, with them. Wherever the hell or whatever that we're saying, where we look in them or those labels, it's a part of us that is locked with them. But when we get to combat within us and find that part that fell in love instead of blaming ourselves and just loving ourselves because we didn't know any better. And all we wanted is love. All we wanted is acceptance. Because everyone wants that. No matter how wounded somebody is, we are looking for love. And at times we need to look for it within us. And here's the thing, even when because there was a part of that alcoholism in my first relationship. We were not married, but we had 2 children together. And I got married and I had a child with my now ex-husband. And when things didn't work out, there was a part of me that was kind of like feeling like functional alcoholic issue. Maybe things would have worked. And it came through in a meditation. What part of you has a problem with his drinking? And I was like, what kind of question is that? Because at the end of the day, we know alcohol is not good for us and we can't raise children in this dysfunctional place. And at that moment, I just had this download. And I knew at that moment that it was not him. I was looking for somebody with the dysfunctional alcoholism and all that because that's the love that I was exposed to. My father had a problem with alcohol. So for me, even when I stay in toxic environment, whether someone is an alcoholic or whatever that they're doing to themselves in a whole space, and a part of me want to rescue them, it's a part of me that wants to rescue its father. And because I'm looking for love, it's kind of like if I take this pain away from you, and this is also one thing with empathetic people. You take the pain because you want something from that person. If I remove this, maybe now you're gonna love me. And instead of the best thing is what? We give ourselves that love. But instead we look outside. If I go outside, I may find something. And when I take that thing that will give me the love, even the same thing, we project our pain, we project even our potential. If you are good at falling in love with potential, I just invite you to look at that. What potential are you not unleashing within you? Because when we have that gift within us, and especially even if we have healing abilities, you want to attract more broken people. And then they're going to come and heal through your energy, which is sexual energy, it's a healing energy. And then you are surprised that, oh, I made this person better. And then they left. Yeah, because you are not willing to use what's yours for your own motto of transformation.
I mean, that's basically people have the negative pattern of they're finding the people that have something wrong, they're trying to fix them. And there's so many, like, I know I had that pattern, and it was a guy helped me. He just told me something, and I'm working with him now. We're partnering, we're helping people with anxiety and addictions and stuff like that. But I remember I met him at an event, and he just said something to me, and it just broke the pattern. It was like, so sometimes we think, no, that's who I am. But it's not. It's the story that we're telling ourselves.
I just love that. Because we fought a lot with my now ex-husband, and he told me, and here's the thing, you've got a choice. You can believe that's who you are, and that's who you are. Because wow, in my previous marriage, we were fighting. I was like, you can beat this. You've got that within you. You can beat this alcoholism, because it also runs in the family. I said, you can. And he said, this is who I am. And he had a list of the famous people who have alcohol addiction. And in his defense, it was like, this is who I am. And here's the thing. The bad is out there, the good is out there. And we have a choice to say, what is it that I'm affirming to be? What is it that I'm aligning with? Who am I being? And you can be whatever that you choose to be. If you align with, oh, I'm just angry, this is who I am, or I'm just an alcoholic, just a drug addict, or like whatever that you affirm, that's true. And we cannot take that away from you. And that's the power of being human, because we can choose and align with whatever that we choose to align with, or we can seek help and believe that as much as other people had that problem and they managed to overcome it, so can you. And that's where the power is, and it lies within us.
And I think a lot of people, they spend so much of their energy, whether it's a parent or a loved one, that they're just trying to change them because they know the damage it's doing. But unfortunately, and I mean, I've seen this from growing up, even in Poland, I've seen hundreds of cases. It has to be the person that makes a decision. I will never persuade anybody to change their mind. If anything, it's a magnet effect. It'll just push them that they go deeper down the hole. And you have to just, let stuff tear from and just let them breathe. And because so many people think, I can do it. And they give their life to try to make the change. And like you're right, you have to find it within. And I think sometimes by you doing that, your partner or whoever, the parent, they can see the brighter you. And that might be the time that it inspires them to change, because they realize you're having such a good life, you're so happy and everything, I'm in a dark place, and then they can change. Whereas some people, they never get to that light stage because they're spending all their energy trying to change the person.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge because it's a problem that is, and even when we go back, it's still, like I said, generational inherited patterns. How has it been? Like, for instance, where I come from, for a woman who is willing to go through thick and thin, whether the men cheats, the men have children outside, or whatever that happens, and you stick with it, it's kind of like this is really a marriage type kind of woman. There is that status, there is that role that people just give you to say, oh, she's a woman and a half because she can go through all this. But at what expense is that coming with? It costs you a voice, it costs you a name, it costs you identity. And what you're doing is you are carrying the generational patterns and imprints and putting them ahead of you, even ahead of your children, even the belief that I'm doing it for my children. It's totally nonsense, because the truth is we can't save anyone if we allow them to take us down with them. And it's also, even when it comes to respecting the other's path and soul, because we go through shit. I went through shit. It was hard. I had to question my sanity, even when it comes to my path of being a healer. That's one of the things that my ex-husband didn't, I would say, approve. For him, it was like, you are really crazy because this shit doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is science, and all this nonsense is just it's just a fantasy. You need to snap out of it and just be the woman that I met. So that was his truth. But I know my truth. So I had to stick with what I know is true for me, not what he says. I had to respect my path and ask him to respect my path, and I had to respect him. And respecting somebody's soul path is also understanding that there is that God within them. And there is a reason why they chose what they chose, as in like the family that they were born in, as in like why the experiences that they went through happened. And for us to empower them is willing to know that who you are can find itself as I found myself. Because when it comes to the lessons, even when you're talking about being intuitive, it's a gift, but at the same time, we develop that often when we are in a dysfunctional family, where it's kind of like you have to survive. It's a survival skill at the core of it. So even resilience, emotional intelligence, not just the one that we do from the mind to try and manipulate other people, but embodying it and being able to go through transformation, but still, maintaining your sanity. It's a people skills. It's what we learn when we're going through those experiences. So who are we to deny other people an opportunity of at times reaching that downfall, however that it's gonna look like. At times it may mean losing everything. It's just knowing that I trust in you, got in within you to go through it and figure it out. And however that is gonna happen, if at all they choose to learn that after when they die, so be it. But we're gonna respect who they are. And for me, I believe when we're talking about whether it's an extraordinary being, an unapologetic being, a conscious being, is knowing that Your truth is your truth. You are in agreement with whatever that your soul has agreed to give birth to in this lifetime, and so are other people, and you respect them no matter how hard it is. And even when it comes to our children, that's what we're going to be asked of. Are you still going to hold space and love that person no matter who they be, no matter what they're going through? Because love never ends. Love is who we are. And love doesn't mean I'm going to sit with you and tolerate your disrespect. I'm going to sit with you and tolerate your whatever toxicity and all that. It means I love you enough to let you go. And I know that you've got it within you. For me, that's the highest form of love. As much as I believe the higher power, God, whatever we call it, if you want to experience something, the absence of love, the absence of abundance, we're going to experience it because God knows that at some point we're going to remember, snap out of it and say, I'm done with this and I'm going to embody my magnificence.
Beautiful. With it's something that I've just discussed recently. I've done a TikTok on it, and it's something I'm conscious. And based on what you said about your mother, kind of saying, "Hey, you're kind of different." I was my mother's favorite. My brother, there's only two of us, was my dad's favorite. But if I look at all around, you could see that growing up. And what damage are we doing by the child knowing that somebody prefers them over their brother or sister?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because on the other hand, especially even when you look at the true principles, which is like the feminine and the masculine, right? So it depends at the same time as like who is more dominant and the child is still gonna I'll call it the limping energy, where when I look at that energetic field, it's more like the other one is empowered, or either the masculine or the masculine or the feminine, depending on who influenced them, and the other one deprived them of something. So when there is that separation, obviously, if at all the mother loved you, then the father didn't. There is a part of you that is more nurturing the feminine because of the person that loves you, and somehow the masculine part gets to be wounded somehow. There is a part of you that doesn't feel supported, and it affects our wholeness. Because when it comes to who we being and what we creating, we need both the balance of the feminine and the masculine. So it causes that wounding in a child in terms of the fully development of the wholeness or the integration of the feminine and the masculine energy. Yeah.
And I mean, just based on sometimes the woman has more masculine energy and the man has more feminine energy, and it's kind of finding the balance.
Yeah, that's true because it doesn't mean when you're talking about masculine, it's whether a man or we both have them, and you can come from a family like both parents were there, but then the mass at times it's quite interesting because at times when a woman is more assertive, working and all that, somehow they kind of like being more masculine, and then the man is more yeah, kind of like the
She
masculine
takes the testosterone out of him, and she
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the masculine is shut down. And I remember I went with two ladies that were sisters, and their masculine was yeah, wounded in the sense of their father was not active, was not speaking, like the mother did whatever that they did. And at the same time, here's the thing, even that's funny. It's not like that masculine was wounded because somehow they felt sorry for the father, and it's kind of like they wish the father could be more, assertive and speaking, but he wasn't. And they also hated the mother because it was kind of like dominant and wanting to decide for them and all that. So what it caused, especially when it comes to the inner child, there was that inner child that doesn't feel safe and that doesn't feel loved, because as the mother who, when you look at it, it's more like she has more of the nurturing energy, but because she was operating from the feminine, yeah, she didn't love the children much. It was more like empowering them in terms of education, but they felt unworthy. Their inner child was not safe. They got into relationships where it's the other way around. Now the man was more dominant and I would say abusive, and still it continued with that I'm not safe energy, I'm not loved energy. So it doesn't only damage the feminine or masculine, it can damage both, especially if there is that resistance, because at times we resist when we want some attention from somebody and they're not able to give us, whether it's work, because even when you're talking about trauma, people think that it's like something big has to happen. But at times it's like somebody who is busy all the time, working all the time. And for the child, it's kind of like, I'm not important. So work is important. Or even money is more valuable than me. And I find that with children, when we get to work together with adults, the inner child is resisting that money, that work, or whatever. It's kind of like, I don't want to do it. It's what took from me the love that I needed. So it's a challenging it's a challenging situation that still requires us to go within and look at both aspects and heal, but most importantly, interpret the inner child. Because at times we look outside, blame the parents, look at what's wrong, but are we old enough and responsible enough to now take care of our inner children, mother or parent our inner children? Because if we don't and we're busy blaming and chasing everybody, we're giving away our power to the same people that we may have exchanged our energy with. Like take my energy, my life force energy, and I'm gonna take your pain, your burden, because maybe when I have this, you're gonna love me. And then as an adult, you're still busy looking outside. Your inner child is here. She feels abandoned. So you are doing to yourself what they did to you. You are giving your power away as an adult because you are still looking outside. And at times it's flipping interesting because the parent may have died, but the inner child, the energetically, that aspect is still following the parent who is on the other side. There is one guy who I was working with, and it was quite interesting as we started to work together. At some point, I kind of like saw him, and there were people who were having conversation. And when he saw me, he was like excited to an extent where like his back hit a wall, and I picked him up like the little child, and the mother was there, but the way it was appearing, it was like on the other side. The mother's not even aware that the little child is there. So spiritually or energetically, that child is disintegrated and is following that aspect of your parent that is dead, because he's still looking for love outside. And you are here as an adult trying to make ends meet, but you are disintegrated. So it's mind blowing how these things are when you look at them energetically. Yeah.
Well, definitely. And like to finally, you mentioned, like healing and stuff like that, and like using African ancient quantum medicine. You might explain exactly what's that.
Yeah, that's the magic. I love magic, and that's the magic that I bring. So I do healing the way that's always been done in ancient times. Because when I like I connect with a lot of healers, they'll be like, "Oh, we don't do healings the way it was done, where someone is doing healing through their body and all that." For me, that's I come from a lineage of first healers, and that's what we do. So I step into auric fields and I get to know what the hell is going on spiritually, energetically, metaphysically, and I align with that. When I say like the easier way of talking about it, I would say human MRI and psychic surgeon, because as a when I do this, I step into auric fields and I get to see where the blocks are, what is happening. And at times even we can have conversation when you're talking about sexual energy. Your body lights up where those things are stored. Because at times when I look at especially the self-development communities or world, we are aware of what is happening. We know from information. But because people are disconnected from the body, they don't even know where that is stored. But for you to be able to really shift it, usually you get to be in the body. So I step into the auric fields and I get to see and know what is going on. Every conversation, it has its own thing that is bringing through. And for instance, even being here with your audience, what I feel often, like what I feel where the energy is throughout the session is more on the chest area going to the solar plexus. So like the heart and then the power center is what I would say the energy is what people need more of. And it's quite interesting because at times it's more like tracing the core of it, because as I'm speaking about it, because I'm now getting into the body, as I'm speaking about it, it's on the chest and it goes to the solar plexus and then it drops down to the pelvic area, which shows me that the most affected parts of the people who are going to listen to this even in the future, it's the sexual energy, and then the power center, and also there's lots of heartache and heartbreaks that happened. And I always say this: a closed hand does not receive, and so is the closed heart.
Beautiful. And I mean, sometimes people, they wouldn't experience that, but it's like when you're in the presence of someone with a gift and they can, I suppose, release a blockage or understand, then you know the power. And so I'd say don't be skeptical for those that kind of don't get this. It's like, I think we're skeptical of everything, and everything is our belief system. But just be open, be an open book, and try everything. It's not going to hurt you. And when you so there's some people that are hurting and they're going to therapists and they're going to different things. They're trying, they're even getting operations and stuff. And it's like, sometimes it's just the energy fields need to be aligned. And when somebody's got a gift, they can help you.
Absolutely. I've had people who had surgeries cancelled just and after 4 weeks. And how magical is that? They didn't have to go through that body being open and all that. The most important thing is being intentional and being open to receive, because as much as I can try to explain what this African ancient quantum medicine is, what I say is, even I've done this for 7+ years right now, but it always blows my mind away. And you can experience it. But when someone explains, you may not understand, but you get to be open, do when the work is done, and you just gonna experience this because it happens at a cellular level. So there's no how you can miss it. And some people, if at all, when you are sensitive to energy, as I'm speaking, you are feeling it, or you may even feel a bit more tired than you were previously because I'm transmuting energy as I'm speak.
And like I remember, there's a guy, he's living in South Africa, Michael Tellinger, and even on the lands there, that there's energy being traveled, and they have devices to actually prove this. There's energy being traveled all around, and it's so. Yes, if you go there, you can't see nothing. So it's the same thing with the body. So there's energy everywhere, and it's like, if you've got people that have the devices that can see this, that's why you should be more open to it.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Listen, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. You might let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. Actually, I'll share a link with you. I call it orgasmic clarity because I'm big on sexual energy. So if you have done the work and you haven't received the outcome that is sustainable, probably the sexual energy is the issue. So I'll share a link with you, and I'm giving a free intro to my magic for 45 minutes. I'll share that link with you, but I'm available in all social media, Gao Motsemme. Instagram is gaomotsemme.magneticconfidence. My website is www.gaomotsemme.com. You can also go there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to connect with you. And if you're open, let's connect and see what is blocking your freedom and success. Are you creating templates from your unique signature blueprint, or you are creating from what you have inherited?
Beautiful. And I'll make sure I put all the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem.